Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is going to be a fully commentated playthrough of the Resident Evil 3 remake that released in 2021, and this is also going to be a complete verbal evisceration of this game. There are people out there who like this game, and that's fine. I don't care. There are people out there who think that this is a good video game, and I think those people are a little bit off. I think that this is an okay video game at best. It's functional and it works technically. Uh, but there are people out there who think that this is a good Resident Evil game, and there are people who think that this is a good remake of Resident Evil 3, and there are people who think this is a good sequel to Resident Evil 2 remake, and those people are just objectively wrong. And this video is going to be a 2.5 to 3 hour explanation of why that is, because oh boy, I hate this fucking video game. This game is so bad it causes me physical pain. Uh, So this is going to be overwhelmingly negative. If you're not down with 2 to 3 hours of scathing negativity, just duck out now because it's not going to get better. I have a couple of nice things to say about this game, but man, I have a lot of bad things to say, and it starts early. To be honest, it starts even before we begin the game. Right? It starts with the DLC practices. Um, and it begins even before that actually. And I'll expand on all of this as we play through, but you know, the fact that this game came out the year after Resident Evil 2 remake was kind of a bad sign. We all knew it would use assets from the second game because that's how the third game did it originally, and that makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. Um, but man, I've heard that this game was developed alongside Resident Evil 2, and so it technically had 3 to 4 years of development. I don't believe that because you've got two scenarios here and neither are flattering. One is this game was legitimately developed alongside 2, in which case it has the obvious problems of not being able to be what a sequel normally is, which is an improvement upon an iteration of something, because they were developed alongside each other, and so there's no opportunity for the teams to learn from each other, which would explain a few design choices in both games that you would think would be ironed out between them. And you had like a B team, or excuse me, a D team working on this game for 3 years because there's not 3 to 4 years worth of content here. It's just not here. So I don't know what they were doing that whole time. The other possibility is this game had probably more like 1 to 2 years of development after the success of 2, and they rushed the fuck out of this. Like, they might have gotten some of the early stuff done, like the story planning and the audio capture and the motion capture. They might have gotten some of that out of the way much earlier. But I do not believe that this game had a full 3 year development cycle, 3 to 4 years. And if it did, man, they fucked up. At least if this game is rushed, you can be like, all right, there was probably a vision here, and it just didn't have the time or the budget, which is entirely possible as well. They're not mutually exclusive possibilities, right? They could have been given 3 to 4 years, and that could not have been enough time, and it could have not been enough budget. But I don't think either scenario is flattering. So that's the first problem. Is this game came out 1 year after the second game, and it shows. And it suggests this idea that perhaps Capcom is only capable of making one good remake every decade, and if it would have taken another decade to get this game done right, I would have waited. Because with this game having been done now, the way that it is, it's very unlikely we will see it redone again. At best, I think there's a chance Capcom could use Revelations 3 as an opportunity to revisit some of what this game should have been, gameplay wise and story wise, and I'll get to that. But the idea that we're stuck with this game as our remake of 3 is very disheartening. It's very sad, very depressing. It makes me very angry. I'm very upset with Capcom at this game and how they treated it from the beginning to the end. Very short-lived end, very short-lived life, very quickly issued end. And it starts with the DLC. In Resident Evil 2, it came with 4 costumes for Leon and Claire each out of the gate. The new costume, the alternative new costume, the classic costume, the alternative classic costume. And then for free, they added the pixel costumes. All the DLC were brand new costumes, never before seen, and just kind of neat. But they were completely superfluous. And one of them was even really cool in that it brought Elza Walker into the game. with this game, Jill has two costumes in base. In the base game, she has the new costume, she has a Stars outfit, and it's a very drastic reinterpretation of that Stars outfit. It's not a Stars outfit that we've seen before. It's a very drastic change. And there's no alterations. You can't choose any kind of alternative Jill, even though there are opportunities, several of them here, to do that, and no alternatives for that. And if you want her classic costume, which is also modified and significantly different than the actual classic costume, then that will also cost you, an extra $5 for the DLC. And I think that that's really scummy, personally. Had to pause the recording there for a moment, but we should be back now. I think I've spent enough time kind of building this up. Let's just jump into it. We're going to be using the classic costume because I think it's, I just kind of prefer it. I don't necessarily think that it's better. Costumes. And it's just a preview of the costumes. This is the drastic redesign of the Stars outfit. I don't actually have a problem with it, but it is just very different and not really what you'd expect, and kind of silly a little bit for a cop, but whatever. This is no better. And then Carlos, man, oh my god, they did Carlos dirty. Look at this. Look at this bullshit. This is disgusting. And this is fucking DLC, dog. Classic hair Carlos. This is DLC. You pay $5 for this. Fuck you, Capcom. It's so bad. But let's jump into it. In terms of results here, this game is a little rough, so I didn't bother doing a legitimate Nightmare playthrough, and I cheesed the hell out of that Inferno playthrough because they let you do that. There's no S+ in this game, there's just S, which is perhaps, again, a sign of either rushed development or really poor creative design decisions. But we're just going to do a new game. We're going to play on hardcore just because I don't want to have to get extremely angry at this game that I would get on Nightmare. And, I mean, really, man, these problems start super early, I think. Because with this intro, like, what the fuck does this intro have to do with anything? It's just this generic stock footage, live action stuff of riots, right? And you compare this to the incredible animated intro, in-game engine intro of the original Resident Evil 3, it just doesn't compare. And the only thing that makes this interesting is this guy right here. This guy's commentary. And I feel like if you combined this guy's commentary with a remade version of the original game's intro, you'd have a legitimately terrifying and incredibly effective intro. And you can put in the Nemesis parts too. I don't mind the Nemesis parts. They're alright. But the fact that we get this live action opening sequence that lasts like 30 seconds, 1 minute, compared to the incredible in-engine renders and cutscenes that we got in Resident Evil 2 Remake, sets the tone for the entire game. Is that we're looking at a cheap, low-budget, low-effort cash-in. And that's nothing new for Capcom, right? But this is a mainline Resident Evil entry getting a remake after two in a row of the most celebrated video game remakes ever. Resident Evil 1 remake, which in almost everyone's opinion has effectively replaced the original as a just superior product in every way. And the Resident Evil 2 the Resident Evil 2 remake, which is a little bit more divisive, but still very well reviewed, very well liked, and a potential contender for replacement of the original game. But then you get to this game, man, the bar drops. Now, this part here in Joel's house also kind of sets the stage, because this isn't bad. It's just kind of a waste of potential, and that also sets the stage for this. The first person part, it's whatever. I don't really mind it. It's kind of cool. It does let you, kind of get a better feel of her apartment. It would be difficult to really extract all of the details of this place, which there are a lot of good details here. It would be difficult to extract these details from third persons. I don't mind the first person. And I don't mind this opening sequence either, really. It's not until after the transition that we run into an issue. Yeah. So, first of all, what the fuck is this? I don't understand what this thing is. Why does she have this? She has her samurai edge later, and I guess this is a dream, so I can let it pass. But why the fuck is that gun here? The G17 or whatever? I hate that gun. I'll get into why I hate that gun more later. But this is an interesting part, and again, it's just kind of underwhelming potential where they give Jill this very interesting PTSD from her experience in the mansion, which makes a lot of sense, and it does kind of foreshadow what happens later in the game. But there's no real resolution to this. Like, she has this nightmare, and she has a nightmare later, similarly, unprompted, for no reason. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you think about it, but this doesn't go anywhere. She never overcomes this as far as we know, like, and she doesn't really act like she has PTSD outside of this moment here. You don't really get any impression that she has PTSD. She doesn't really act like it. And on that note, I like Jill's personality in this game. I think there's a lot of people out there who don't like her personality, and I'll be honest, I think a lot of those people are just kind of sexist. I just think they're being a little petty about it. I think the way she treats the UBCS members is perfectly reasonable given her experiences. So I don't really mind that, and I think she's sassy, she's witty. I think she can be fun and light, and she is badass in her personality. But it doesn't really mesh with this PTSD angle that they're going for in the game. It just doesn't really make sense. So, in terms of the house here, I think there's a huge missed opportunity to let this be kind of a menu, right? Like, this should be the menu of the game, Jill's apartment, not the Nemesis screen. That's dumb. This should be the menu, right? And you kind of walk around, or at least you menu around, and it kind of jumps you to different parts of her apartment. And you can change your costume here, and you can access your bonus items here once the game gets started. And you can kind of choose your starting arsenal between all of the different New Game Plus items that they added into this game, as with the store mechanic. As it is, you spend very little time here, and there's so much more they could have done with this area just by doing something like that. I think it would have been really cool. So now going back in here. And maybe we do this to ourselves. But before the game came out, there was speculation that the whole Jill PTSD thing would be a good reason to revisit the mansion, right, from the first game, to revisit the Spencer estate from the first game in this new engine. And I think that would have been amazing. It wouldn't have had to be a very long, very expansive gameplay sequence, but giving us the chance to explore those halls in this perspective, in this engine, would have been incredible. And if they could have made it as some kind of good gameplay section, that would have been great too. But for as many walking sections as this game has, hold forward to progress sections, that's a huge missed fucking opportunity. Okay, so before I go over here, because once I go over here, shit hits the fan real quick. The biggest problem with this game is how rushed it is overall. We've been playing for like 5 minutes. I have not held a gun. I have not shot a zombie. I have not done anything. I've not done any of the core aspects of Resident Evil. And we are about to have, like, the tone and the pace fucking shattered. Light speeded into the stratosphere. It's terrible. The introduction of Nemesis into this game so early is so much of the problem with Nemesis, and Nemesis is a problem himself. But in the original game, and I'll pause it so we don't have to listen to the call. In the original game, you played a significant portion of it before Nemesis showed up. You played probably for like 15-30 minutes, depending on how quick you are. Maybe more. Before Nemesis even showed up. So you got to grips with the game, its mechanics, its zombies, its theme, its pacing, everything. And you heard about the Nemesis. Brad tells you that something's after you and him. But you don't know what, and he fucks off. And so you keep playing. And then you get to the RPD, and out of nowhere, Nemesis makes this incredible introduction, famous moment, kills the shit out of Brad, immediately establishes himself as an incredible threat. And then the game compounds that by using its unique mechanic that this game does not have, the live selection choice, to make that moment even more impactful, because this is also the introduction of that mechanic. Fight the monster, run. Those are your choices, dude. And Jill's already backing up. So you're kind of inclined to not fight it. And the fact that the game is giving you that choice, which is a series first and in a very intense moment, there's a suggestion there that you're supposed to run. And oh boy, are you. Because if you try to fight and beat the Nemesis your first time playing, you're going to get your shit pushed in. Because there's no way you're going to stop him at all. He's unconquerable, basically, until you really understand the game and how to play it and how to fight him. And even if you understand that, if you had been bad at the resource management leading up to that, you're simply not going to have the means. Even if you have the ability, you won't have the means, which is core Resident Evil. Having the means, resource management, right? All of that fucking gone in this game. Nowhere to be found, because Nemesis is introduced right here, immediately. Which also has some like logical and how is this possible concerns and questions. Like, how does Brad know that the Nemesis is coming? I want an explanation of what the timeline here was. So Nemesis drops into the city. Brad happened to be right outside Jill's apartment where the Nemesis drops. Somehow knows it's going directly for Jill and calls her up at that moment, and then we meet him outside this apartment. Where'd that samurai edge come from? Where'd she get that from? And I want to pause right here, okay? Because this is the first moment of many where Nemesis is a fucking idiot, okay? Do a drinking game, because I got some wine here. I'm going to play the drinking game with this, right? Fucking drink of wine, alcohol, whatever. Every time Jill is basically dead to rights, in the Nemesis's grasp or in his clutches or should be dead rightfully, and he just fucking tosses her around, dude, or gives her like a light push in a different direction. This is a huge problem with this game and the way it presents the Nemesis, because this isn't a thing that happens at all in Resident Evil 2 Remake, right? Not that I can think of, and I've played that game for 200 hours, and I don't recall this happening. Whenever X in 2 has Leon, and he gets him twice, I believe. He gets him once in the garage, and then Ada saves him. And he gets him again at the end of the game when the pipes explode and it kind of causes him to fall into the fire, and then he comes back as his final tyrant form. Both of those times, he was fucking ready to kill your ass. He wasn't going to throw you anywhere. He was going to crush your fucking skull just like he does in gameplay. But Leon got lucky, which tracks really hard because that's like Leon's defining characteristic as a hero, is that he's just super fucking lucky. Like, people comment on this throughout the series about how lucky Leon is. So that tracks hard. Both times Leon was captured, he got saved. He got bailed out. The tyrant just didn't let him go. And Claire never gets captured. Never is in a situation like that. The closest she gets is when he has them in the elevator. And Birkin shows up and fucking eviscerates the tyrant at that point. So again, there's never this situation where, like, the antagonist just lets the hero go, right? Like, Birkin doesn't do it either. I can't think of a moment where Birkin has either of these characters dead to rights and just lets them go. You never see Birkin really take hold of these characters in a cutscene. Except, I guess he kind of tackles you when he first shows up, but then the floor falls out from under you, and so you're separated as a result of that. Every time the villain has an advantage over the protagonist in 2, every time the monster has an advantage over the hero, something happens to justify the escape. That does not happen here. Nemesis continuously has Jill dead to rights and just lets her go. I mean, God forbid. Just count in the fucking times it happens in this intro cutscene alone. Like, look at this shit. What is this? What is this? He misses. He misses again. Oh, and then there's this. Now, you would think that if you sit here, something will happen, right? The game kind of, the game design here suggests, like, you should run directly forward down the linear path, the linear hallway that says exit at the end, right? The big nemesis that's super scary that just busted into our fucking apartment. He's here to kill the shit out of us, so we gotta hurry. We gotta go real fast. We gotta go fast, right? Like Sonic. No. No. This game subscribes to the Uncharted approach of gameplay design, and I don't like Uncharted. I think Uncharted are like the Uncharted series is just really bad games. They might be good stories and good experiences, and they're definitely spectacles, but they're not fun to play. Like they're super boring, and this is all this is. It's scripted, shallow, meaningless bullshit because you can't die here, and even if you could, you would have to do it intentionally. I mean, you can technically die a couple times in this opening section, like when you're running from the nemesis in a moment, and then later on the garage. But that's it. And both of those times, you really, like, especially the second time, on the garage later. Oh my God, you have to wait. You have to try to die there, just out of morbid curiosity about what would happen. So I mean, it's kind of neat that they animated it, that they even fucking bothered, to be honest, but like it would never happen. You know, like what is the Nemesis doing right now? What the fuck is he doing? We've been sitting here for like 2 minutes. What is he doing? It's a joke, right? It's a joke, and I swear everybody at Capcom has to be in on that, right? Like this hold forward shit is really bad game design in general. Ah, he finally manages to get through the he finally manages to get through that door, right? And I guess that was the door he threw at us, maybe? Oh, and here's another question. Whose apartment is this, right? Whose apartment did Jill just break into, wasn't locked, tips over their fucking bookshelf? They're not here, so, like, they're not here. Their window's open. Maybe they ran out their fucking window. I don't know. Which is another question, too. Like, Jill went to sleep presumably, like, an hour or two ago. She's taking a little bit of a nap. What the fuck happened in 2 hours, dude? In 2 hours. Was that Nemesis? He's not through that door. He just decided, it's like, ah, fuck it, whatever. The amount of run forward in this game is just super dumb. And if you compare this to the intro of 2, you can get through the entire intro of 2 on the A scenario in less than 5 minutes. You can beat to the RPD, and it's 100% gameplay. There's no hold forward, right? There's some kind of guided sections, but it's entirely possible to die to that first zombie in the gas station. Now, granted, that's mostly on hardcore where the enemy health values are bullshit, but it's entirely possible to die there. All this shit is just dumb, dude. This is a complete waste of time. And even if you're going as fast as possible, even if you're a speedrunner, this shit takes 15 minutes. Alright, here's a question, right? Nemesis has these tentacles that he uses on multiple occasions to kill people, including Jill if you let it happen. Why doesn't he just do that here? Why does he try to pull her out? Like, what is the point there? I don't understand. Like, what is he doing? And now, again, we can just kind of wait here. We can't go back because this game's super linear. We can run forward. And then I'll give him credit. This moment here is pretty good. This moment here is alright, actually. This is good. That's pretty good. But, like, right here. What is this? What is this? Jill is dead, dude. Like, he... Okay. So I think there's a Russian box art of the PS1 game, where it's like basically just this. Like Nemesis has just fucking crushed Jill's head. That's the box art for the game, I think. I don't know if that's real. I've seen it before. It's really kind of cool, actually. But like, we know he can, right? He has the strength to do it. And even if he doesn't, like, what is the point of this? He has her dead and throws her into the fire. Why does he let her go? It doesn't make sense. And then what is this? He tries to punch her one time. He's like, alright, that didn't work. Let me not try again. And he gets this kind of creative idea here, right? The fact that he grabs this almost suggests that he's a little playful about it, which might maybe explain why he lets her go a lot. He has kind of a sporting personality about it, you know, like the thrill of the hunt, because Nemesis is a little bit more of an intelligent tyrant. So you could say, well, he's just having fun with her, right? He's just playing with his food. And I would be willing to accept that. But then you have to wonder, one, why is that never said in anywhere? Like, that's never mentioned in any lore. It's never mentioned in any documents anywhere. And even if it was, what's the rule set that he's operating on? 3 strikes and you're out? Like, what are the rules here? When is it, and is it not fair? I don't understand, right? So the first hold forward sequence, right? Like, if as long as you're holding forward, you can't fail here. So this entire section is completely devoid of like any actual substance. And then I guess like the inside collapses, which explains why he fucks off for a while. It kind of looks like the ceiling's still there, but I think the implication is like the place exploded and collapsed, and so it incapacitated him, which is why he fucks off. But whatever. And let's talk about this bullshit, right? What are the odds? What are the odds Brad is right here? Brad, like prime underused character number 1, dude. He didn't have much of a role in the first game or the third originally. But man, they kind of made it seem like he'd get more of a role here. Nah, dude, he gets less of a role. He is probably has less screen time here than he did in the original game. And he doesn't even get to go out in as cool of a way, right? Like, he just gets... This guy, I guess he didn't technically survive the mansion, right? Because he was never in there. But, like, this guy's technically a survivor of the mansion incident. He's a member of STARS. And instead of getting taken out by Nemesis, like in the original game, he gets taken out by a fucking zombie, alright? Now, we got a couple things to talk about here. One, this whole city section, you spend so little time in the city, and you don't get to do anything here, you know? Like, there's so much where you just force through really quick. Whereas opposed to the original game where you got to explore a very significant portion of the city before Nemesis even showed up. And then, most of the game was exploring the city after that. You get a lot of nice visual cues here, but it's all meaningless. It doesn't... There's no substance here. This game is very flash and style over substance, and I just dislike that. This is questionable. You're really telling me they dropped this right here outside of Jill's apartment? I mean, I guess, but again, we gotta kind of come back to the timeline of, like, where the fuck was Brad, right? Like, how did he know? And if it was previously chasing him, which it should have been, like in the fucking original game, why did it stop, right? In the original game, it didn't stop chasing him until he was dead. And then it changed target and it chased Jill, and it didn't stop until she was dead or it was dead, right? This part's kind of bullshit. You can actually die here just because of, like, the game can just fuck you here. I think it is sort of based on your proximity to the zombies, but, like, legit, you can just die here and there's nothing you can do about it. Because you can't dodge, you can't defend yourself. The game can just decide to kill you. And what a fucking stupid section this is, dude. Look at this. We turn around, and he's dead. He's already dead, dude. Like, what a joke. I think this is a good character moment, though, and we'll talk about that more later. I like the characters in this game. I think they did the characters really well. I really like their relationship here. I really like this dialogue exchange. But man, do they do Brad dirty here, dude. And it further undermines the Nemesis, because he is really bad at his job. He's really bad at killing Jill, and he doesn't even get the chance to kill Brad. He's just fucking shite at his job, dude. He's really bad at it. Conveniently, Jill finds a fucking Glock here, and this bothers the shit out of me. I am getting an occasional stutter. I think that's my graphics driver. I'll have to roll it back, because it doesn't need to update it, that's for sure. Yeah, you can just ignore that guy. But this annoys me, right? Like, why is it that these characters have these custom pistols that are really cool and, like, kind of, like, prominently featured and have a cool name, like the Samurai Edge, and have a lot of lore behind them, but then they never actually use them, right? Like, Barry is the only person, Barry and Wesker are the only two who ever actually get to use the Samurai Edge. Everybody else, I mean, we assume Brad has one, but, like, Jill and Chris get fucked on this. Like, they don't get any. You know, they have them, but they never get to use them, right? Like, where is Jill's Samurai Edge? I understand that she was attacked, but, like, did she really need to lose it? Like, you couldn't justify a reason for her to keep the pistol so that she could use her iconic gun? I mean, Jesus Christ, guys. You know, it's available as a DLC, or excuse me. It's available as a bonus item, and I will be swapping the G16 for it because fuck this gun. But like right here, right? This is kind of a prime example. This was an iconic area in the original game because it's where you started, and you know, that had the Dario moment, and then you came back here. You could find Dario later. Oh look, zombies are trying to get through here, and I'm sure they never will. But here, you kind of just run through it, and if you're not paying attention, dude, you're not even gonna notice that you're in here, right? There's no exploration. You're just shuffled through it. It's a linear set piece. There's nothing of substance here. You just run forward, and that's it. That's all there is. And this is nothing significant, but... Oh, holy shit. More dogs, dude. There's more than 2 dogs in this game. Wow, I didn't know that. Look at that. Like, okay. This is right here. This parking garage sequence could have been another cool gameplay moment, like Jill's apartment, where we could have explored up and down Jill's apartment before and after the Nemesis showed up. And it actually could have been like a tense escape sequence where we really need to escape him, or we're fighting our way through the, you know, the claustrophobic hallways infested with zombies as Jill's neighbors all come out of their apartments and they're all fucking zombies for some reason, which makes about as much sense as them just being gone completely in that, you know, in the section, the completely empty apartment complex. You know, cheap jump scare, dumb. And I would argue this is like our first real moment of gameplay because you actually have to like make a decision here on how to get past these zombies. But you can just dodge past them. Because the dodge, while I respect that they actually made it a consistent, usable mechanic in this game as opposed to being random bullshit in the original, it's honestly too good. Like, you don't have to shoot anything because you can dodge effectively almost everything. Every now and then RNG will work against you, but it's the opposite of the original. Every now and then RNG would work for you, and even then it would still work against you half of that time. But here, I mean, once you get a certain level of mastery with it, and it's not that hard to achieve, you just have to adjust to the fact that it's not the zombies' arms that matter, it's their bodies. The dodging breaks this game in half, because you don't ever have to engage with anything. And I'm of 2 minds on that, because I love that it is effective. I would have hated if it wasn't. But on the other hand, man, it's too good, right? Here we have Ethan's car, another brilliant reuse of assets. This is the section I was talking about earlier where you have to try to fail. Like, Nemesis takes so long to get here. You would honestly have to sit here for like a full minute, not doing anything. And all you have to do to survive is press A 3 times and then right trigger 1 time. And I think you hold right trigger too. Like right here, right? Especially if you watch the death animation where he uses his tentacle to kill Jill. Why doesn't he do that right here? Is that not the hand the tentacle comes out of? Like, I don't understand this. I'll let Jill, you know, I'll give her a pass on surviving this because, you know, action hero protagonist, right? Car crashes don't ever actually hurt or kill anybody in media, so can't rag on that too badly. Again, kind of another pointless section. Just a complete waste of opportunity, right? Rather than having any kind of engaging gameplay where you actually have to battle the Nemesis. It's a cool moment, though. That's definitely a cool moment. Here's another moment where, like, the game wants you to back up, but there's no reason to. The same thing happens. And this bothers me, too, right? So, the first time Carlos shoots, when he has kind of an advantage, although he gives it away by yelling, Nemesis catches the rocket. This time, though, when Nemesis is fully aware, he just tanks it, right? He just face tanks that shit. Why? It's just a weird decision by Nemesis to be like, I'll catch this first one, like, you know, lightning reflexes with my tentacle, right? And then just face tank the second one hard. Why? It's just weird. It's just kind of dumb. And here we are. We're what? 34 minutes into this recording, and I've been taking my sweet ass time, and now Carlos is already here. Like, I don't know what it is, but they really wanted to get Carlos introduced really fast into this game. And on one hand, I like it because they're building the relationship. And I do like the relationship. And again, I like the characters and their personalities and their appearances and their representations. But Man, I just don't see the benefit of introducing Carlos this early. Because it defeats that sense that Jill is alone in the city, right? Because she's not. She immediately runs into like some really armed, capable survivors, and that she immediately works with them, regardless of her distrust in them. It ultimately just amounts to some dialogue exchanges. There's no actual gameplay distrust here. And to be fair, I'm not sure that there was in the original either, but I mean, like at least between meeting Carlos and actually working with Carlos, there was some time.
Whoa, 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 whoa. What are you talking about? We're just here to help you. What's wrong with Umbrella?
What's wrong with Umbrella? Oh my god. Your company is responsible for infecting everyone.
Yeah, I don't know anything about all that. You don't have to trust me, but I'm going to the shelter. You coming? Come on, it's this way.
And so finally we arrive at the start of the demo, which, my God, if I knew that the demo was the best part of the game, Jesus. Again, this is a good scene. Actually, I don't really have a whole lot of complaints here. I actually love pretty much everything about this scene. I just wish that it didn't get here so quickly. That's a great shot. And this game obviously does look amazing. I love the graphics of this game are obviously incredible. The story of this game I actually think is pretty good. And the presentation is top notch in these cutscenes. Legit, honestly, so good.
It's Jill.
But man, everything around it is so pointless. Like you are actually just better off watching all the cutscenes for this game, and you miss nothing. You miss functionally nothing. You get a better experience just watching these cutscenes.
How's that going for you?
The city is completely cut off, isolated. Most of the 100,000 civilians will wind up dead, correction, undead.
Again, I love the writing. That's quality shit. They had some good writers on this.
Just keeping them alive is more than I can manage.
Well, you can thank your corporate overlords for that.
Yes, well, we are doing all we can. If we can get this subway train moving, we can evacuate some survivors.
There are some questions about this, right? What kind of subway does Raccoon City have that takes them out of the city?
All right. I'm in. But I am on their side, not yours.
Oh, hey. It's cool. We all want the same thing.
Thank you, Jill.
All right, Super Cop. Here you go. You can use this to stay in contact.
I know what a radio is.
I love this. That exchange is so good. There's legitimate chemistry here between these characters, and it's wonderful. But unfortunately, the good part is ended, and we're back to complaining. Oh, I'm sorry. One more moment. This is pretty cool. This is dope. This is really neat, and I really appreciate it. These references, these visual references, are A+. This is good shit. But now we're back to the bad part. Like, we finally got into the demo, and this is the best section of the game because it's the closest thing to actually playing and feeling like a Resident Evil game, and also the closest thing to playing and feeling like the original Resident Evil 3. And it takes 15 minutes if you're moving quick. It's very upsetting.
Working on it. So what's the plan?
The old tank's got me clearing the tracks. You mind getting the subway infrastructure back online?
And how do I do that?
Let's start by restoring power. I'll navigate you to the substation once you hit the main road.
Copy that. Let's do this fast.
So I think I'll quickly collect these items here, and I will save, and I'll cut the section here so I can address my graphics driver problem and return momentarily once that has been fixed, so we can continue with the nightmare that is Resident Evil 3 Remake.